Jungkook's attention was fixed on the laptop screen, his gaze never leaving the virtual world. He was in a serious conference with his subordinates, his face displaying a stern expression. Ryan, his wife, sat on the bed, watching her husband, Jungkook, the mafia lord, whom the world dares to mess with. Her eyes were drawn to his perfectly styled hair and the few undone buttons on his shirt, giving him a powerful air of masculinity. Despite herself, Vine couldn't help but admire his handsomeness, features, and the commanding aura he exuded as she watched him. Despite his tough exterior, he had a softness reserved only for her. She watched as he skillfully navigated the business meeting, his words commanding respect from all participants. His eyes flickered to her. He noticed her gazing at him intensely. He muted the microphone and asked, Jungkook, what's the matter, sweetheart? Why are you looking at me so intensely? Ryan, oh, I am just admiring my husband's handsome features. You look so dashing, even in a conference setting. It's hard not to look. He chuckled and replied, Jungkook, you are quite the charmer, my darling, but don't distract me now. I have a conference to attend. Save your admiration for later. She pouted playfully and said, Ryan, but I can't help it. Your focused and serious side is so attractive, especially when you have that stern expression. It's He smiled at her, her words touching his heart. Jacob, you are so tempting, my love, he said, his voice tinged with desire. But as much as I would love to indulge in your admiration right now, I have work to finish. Patience, my dear, and I'll give you all my attention you crave later. She smirked and replied with a seductive smile. Well, in that case, I'll just have to find a way to keep myself entertained. Until you're free, she said playfully, her eyes glittering with mischief. He raised an eyebrow at her words and replied, Jungkook, oh, I see, go ahead. After speaking, he unmuted the microphone and continued his online meeting, giving her a wink before returning his attention to the screen. She stood up and walked over to him slowly, her hips swaying seductively as she stood next to him. She traced her fingers along his neckline, giving him chills. She whispered in his ear, Ryan, working so hard, baby. You should take a break with that. She pressed a kiss to the edge of his jaw, making him shiver. Ryan, you feel so tense, she purred softly, her lips grazing his earlobe. Let me loosen you up a bit. Her hand slipped under his shirt, her finger expertly massaging his back. Her touch was gentle, yet it set his body on fire. She knew every one of his sensitive spots, and she was determined to unravel him completely. He clenched his jaw, struggling to maintain his composure amidst the waves of pleasure she was creating. He turned to her, his voice a husky whisper, Jungkook, Ryan, stop, you are going to drive me wild. His gaze was intense, filled with desire. She smirked knowingly and replied, Ryan, oh, but baby, driving you wild is part of the fun. You know how much I love seeing you come undone. And she spoke, her hands continued to roam over his body, leaving a trail of fire in their wake. With a swift move, he pulled her into his lap swiftly, pinning her against him with a dominant grip. He slid his hand under her sensitive spot, causing her to gasp. Changuk, now behave, my little minx, he whispered roughly. I have a conference to finish. She felt a thrill of excitement as his hand explored her body. She knew she was in his power, but she couldn't help but respond to his touch. She whispered back, When? But what if I don't want to behave? What if I want to misbehave even more? He raised an eyebrow and tightened his grip on her waist. Jungkook, oh, you like to play with fire, don't you? He growled. But don't worry, I'll make sure you punish parently tonight. His words sent shivers down her spine. His hand moved roughly over her inner thigh, causing her to gasp. She straightened her back, her body shivering with the thrill of his touch. He smirked, enjoying the effect he had on her. He leaned close to her ear and whispered, Jungkook, now be a good girl and let me finish my work. I promise to make it up to you later. His voice was low and seductive. His conference resumed, his tone as cold as ever. He maintained a stern demeanor, yet his hand continued to move over her body, igniting sparks of pleasure. Her breath hid, her mind clouded with desire as he skillfully worked his magic. In the midst of the conference, he glanced at her. A small smirk played on his lips as he reached forward, pulling her closer. He pressed a quick peck on her lips, his eyes glistening with desire. Jungkook, behave, he commanded softly before directing his attention to the screen.